Okay, I want to welcome you all to the March 9th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. And so we'll start off with the flag salute. So if you could all join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll have a roll call.
Okay, good morning. Mr. Curry.
Here.
Mr. Rokuchi.
Here.
Mr. Nader and Mr. Sevenson are absent today. So Mr. Moss.
Here.
And Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Thank you.
And I will report that we do have a quorum. Let me see a report from the Planning Director.
George Rosasco, Placer County Planning. Mr. Evaldi is unable to make it today, so I will be running the commission on his behalf. Just by way of a quick update, recently at the board on March 7th, the board upheld the Planning Commission's approval of the Porcupine Hill extension of time and denied the appeal. Also, Barton Ranch was continued to April 4th. A couple issues came up with regard to setbacks, landscaping, and some access issues that the board wanted to delve into a little bit more. So that'll be back before them on April 4th. An appeal was filed on the Planning Commission's approval of Plump Jack, and that is waiting to be scheduled before the board. Upcoming Planning Commission hearings, March 23rd, emergency shelter, CUP, should be exciting for you. April 13th and April 27th.
Are you saying be here or be square?
Yeah. I'm not going to be here, hopefully. You. April 13th and April 27th to be determined at this time. So today, it's a little bit different than a regular planning commission. You have one extension of time on the consent agenda, and then you have two nuisance abatements, which take a little bit different format, and I think you've been made aware of that, correct? Okay. Thank you. Did you have any questions for me before we start?
Questions?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, George.
Yep.
Let me see consent agenda, and I might mention that on the consent agenda, I always jump the gun here. Sorry about that. Anybody from the public have a comment on something that's not on the agenda today? Seeing none, we'll move on. I guess I had my glasses on and not my reading eyes. We have three items on the consent agenda. We have the minutes from our February 2nd meeting, and the minutes from our February 23rd meeting, and the Sierra Sun Villas, which is a development up towards the Donner Summit area that is in for an extension. And so is there any proposals to remove anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Curry.
Yes.
Mr. Rokuchi.
Yes.
Mr. Moss.
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let me see, are we doing okay here time-wise? I think we are. 10:05, and our first item is at 10:05. And so today we're going to be dealing with a little bit different process. We'll be dealing with abatement issues in Placer County. And so we understand the process a little better. Would council like to brief us a little bit more?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, you will be hearing now two nuisance abatement matters. These have a particular hearing procedure that I'd like to briefly outline for you. First of all, as we call each item, we will request that the clerk place all individuals who wish to testify under oath. We will then proceed with the code enforcement officer presenting the case. The request before you in both instances will be whether to proceed with nuisance abatement. You will be charged with listening to the evidence and the testimony and making a decision thereafter. Any member of the public, in particular the property owner, has the right to present his or her case, and also has the right to cross-examine any witnesses appearing on behalf of the county or in the audience. So you need to allow time for that. You may establish time limits for both the property owner's testimony and any comments from the public, as you would in any normal hearing. The rules of evidence, as one would have them in court, do not apply here. That is to say, hearsay evidence can be presented. We do not stand on objections as to the actual evidence. But it is an evidentiary hearing, and you are required to weigh the evidence and the testimony before you come to your conclusion. As we go through this, I will interject if necessary, because it's been a while since this commission has heard a nuisance abatement. But at this point, are there any general questions you have about procedure? I don't want to talk about either of the items, simply the general hearing procedure.
Questions?
We can ask questions also?
Yes,
Okay.
you certainly may. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think the first item here is to have our clerk swear in the members of the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
We're talking general public comment, or where are you at? Because it's not 10:10 yet, so you can't start your first hearing.
Oh, 10:10?
Is 10:05? I stand corrected.
Okay. So do we have to be sworn in first? Does the members of the commission have to be sworn in? No. No? Okay.
Nuisance abatement, Rebecca Houston, address 8501 Sunrise Avenue, Roseville. Anyone giving testimony today on this matter must do so under oath. If you intend to give testimony on this matter, please stand now and raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please state, "I do," now. I do. You may be seated.
Okay, so the first presentation we're going to hear from is our county staff. This is Marina. And I would try to pronounce your last name, but I'll let you do it.
Is this already on? Good morning, Commissioners. Let me go through it. So this nuisance abatement hearing before you is in regards to 8501 Sunrise Avenue, property owned by Rebecca Houston. The parcel is approximately 1.4 acres in size, zoned residential single family, combining ag, located in an unincorporated portion of Roseville in Placer County. This particular case began March 2015 for the excessive storage and debris at the property. Over the course of almost 2 years from my initial inspection on May 8th of 2015, the violations were confirmed, and the division has issued several notice of violation letters to Ms. Houston, has issued 3 administrative citations, has held 3 administrative hearings, 2 of which Ms. Houston was present for. Ms. Houston has received 3 administrative hearing decisions in regards to the condition of the property. And of those decisions, she was given a total of 120 days to make progress at the property. She was also issued a notice of nuisance on May 9th of 2016. It has been 2 years, and based on my photos that I have provided with you, the packets, the condition of the property has not improved. The division has given Ms. Houston 2 years to bring the property into compliance, and as of my last inspection on February 22nd, 2017, the property remains in violation. The violations are for unlawful land use, storing excessive amount of outdoor debris that is well over the allowable limit of 500 square feet, storing over 20 inoperable vehicles on the property, and having items stored within the front setback. Here's the synopsis. Since the case began March 4th of 2015, communication to and from the property owner over the course of 2 years. Here's my initial inspection on May 8th of 2015. Obviously, the brush at that time was very heavy. May 3rd of 2016, we were able to obtain an inspection warrant and actually inspect the full property, front and back. This is the driveway as you enter the property. Items along the driveway. You could see the house in the back. Again, this is still along the driveway heading towards the back of the property. This is looking into the rear of the property. Again, just pictures of the rear. This was my last inspection on February 22nd, a couple weeks ago. This is the front of the property as viewed from Sunrise Boulevard, along the right-of-way there. The house, you can see, is right over here. The driveway is along right there. This is a view from Sunrise looking into the driveway. There is screening, obviously, but as you could see through it. That's looking through the screening. At this time, Code Compliance is asking the Planning Commission to determine that a nuisance exists at the property and that Ms. Houston has been given more than enough time to bring the property into compliance. The division asks the Planning Commission orders Ms. Houston to abate the nuisance by removing items that are in excess of the allowable 500 square foot limit for outdoor storage, including inoperable vehicles, and items to be moved out of the front setback within 30 days or as agreed upon by the Commission. The division asks that in the event Ms. Houston does not complete the abatement of the property after the time allotted has expired, that the Commission authorize and empower Code Compliance to abate the nuisance by removing and disposing of materials in excess of the allowable storage limit. That concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, any questions from the commission?
I don't have a question from Marina, but how do you pronounce your last name?
Howergy?
Howardy. I wouldn't have said that at all, but thank you so much. I saw it in print and I didn't know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to invite the property owner to come up and make their statement. And I would ask you to hold it to 5 minutes.
It doesn't look like that anymore. I've had this gentleman who's with me has been helping me work on it. And I had several setbacks in this last year. It would have been cleaned up. My sister passed away. My husband passed away. My income dropped from $4,000 a month to $900 a month. So paying dump fees has been either I eat or I pay dump fees. And most of the stuff in the front is gone. I mean, the truck is still there, the motorhome, and the refrigerator on the left. But all that stuff is gone. We've been working on it for days and days. But I have hernia, and it's difficult for me to walk. And I was in a car accident also, and I've had to have multiple surgeries because I almost lost my eye, and I had both of my knees got hit against the dash. I got hit head on. And so it's been physically difficult. And before my husband passed away, last year. He was a Vietnam veteran with PTSD and an alcoholic. And he lived there most of the time, except for when he went on walkabout. But I couldn't get on the property to clean it up because he would rant and rave. I don't know if you've dealt with an alcoholic, but he had a BB gun, and he said he'd shoot anybody who came on the property. So I couldn't really do much of anything. And then he got sick, and then I was at the hospital with him for months until he passed away in July. And life's been basically hell since then. And I've had a lot of people who've said they'd help, and then they would show up and eat the food I had and drink the drinks I had and do very little work and take what they found that was valuable and leave. Except for this guy, he's been helping me for the last few weeks, every day, all day, until after dark. And so we're getting it cleaned up. And it should be, barring any kind of horrible occurrences, I think within 3 months I could have it all cleaned up. And it's, I want it cleaned up too. I mean, you know, I didn't bring all that stuff there. And so I definitely want it all gone. But I've borrowed I don't know if you can see it. In the back of that truck, there's a 26-foot trailer I've borrowed to haul away all the appliances. And that's 90% of what's there. So, and I have unlimited use of that trailer until it's done. And I'm putting the property up for sale. I don't know. Nobody's going to want to buy it how it looks, so it pretty much has to be cleaned up. So it is being cleaned up, though. It's in the process. We're working on it every single day. So I'm sure it'll be completely cleaned up within 3 months.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions at this time from the commission? Okay, thank you. Let me see, you have another gentleman that's helping you out that wanted to make testimony,
Yeah.
and so we'll welcome him to come forward right now.
I also have had the flu twice, which kind of incapacitated me for almost 3 months. I'm at the tail end of the second time.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what to say. It's just a long process and very few people to help out on it, but I think we can get it done in 3 months.
You'll need to speak into the microphone. I can barely hear you.
I say it's just been a long process and very few people to help out, but I think we can get it done in 3 months. I've been working into the night, like she said, but...
Could I have you state your name, please?
Scott Ritter.
Thank you.
I don't know what else to say.
Scott, you're just making loads to the dump, just one after another? Is that where this is all going? Or?
Packing it all up, hauling it away, yeah. To the dump, anybody that wanting anything, you know, pretty much, yeah. Everything that was out in front, the daughter emptied out of the house, and her own personal stuff, and it just sat out there for weeks and got all bad and all moldy and stuff, so that's all cleared out now, and we're working on the rest of it.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, nobody else stood up to be sworn in that wanted to make comments. Is there anybody else in the audience that has a comment to make? Would you like to come back again? Okay.
I was just going to say that...
Speak in the microphone, please.
I was just going to say that, well, I allowed my daughter, after my husband passed away, well, actually before he passed away, because she's going to school to be an RN. And she said she'd come help take care of him. And so before he had to go in the hospital, she came over. And I let her stay there for a little while afterwards. And she, like he was saying, my daughter, she took everything out of the house so she could put her own stuff in. And I didn't know, because I was at the hospital with my husband. I didn't know what was going on. And she just put all my belongings, my furniture, everything out in the yard and threw a non-waterproof tarp over it. And so all my own stuff got ruined. And and we had that whole front all cleaned up. You can ask her. She came over and took pictures. It was the whole front area in front of the house was all cleaned up last summer. And after that, all my stuff got put out of the house there. And I mean, I was so busy with my husband, I'd come home exhausted at 1 or 2 in the morning and sleep for 4 or 5 hours and then go back to the hospital. So I didn't have time to go see what was going on, or because he was my primary objective at that point. We were married 24 years, and he was a big part of my life. And so,
Okay, so you currently don't live in the house?
yeah, I live there now.
You live there now?
That's the only way. I'm there all the time, and when I'm awake, I'm cleaning.
Okay, and so the house is owned by both you and your husband?
No, it was mine, only mine.
Okay, so you're the sole owner of the house?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, along with Bank of America.
What's that?
Along with Bank of America.
Oh, as well as the bank? Okay, understand.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess at this time, we need to bring it back to the hearing body. And so, any discussion, questions of staff or anybody?
Question for Maureen.
Mr. Chair, we're going to put the recommendations up on the screen for you.
Okay.
What I would point you to is in particular, the findings that are required in order to determine whether or not you're going to issue the nuisance abatement. I would point you to pages 6 and 7 of your staff report. This would also be the time, if you wish to ask more questions, if you have any, of the code enforcement officer about the case.
And I do.
Okay, I think we do.
Can I ask a question of Karen for a second? Karen, do we have the discretion to allow more time? I noticed that
Yes.
item E under 4E says 30.
You do have the
30 days.
discretion. You do have the discretion to allow more time. However, if you were going to allow more time, my recommendation to you would be that if you decide to move forward with the notice of abatement, that you keep the 30 days, that it needs to be abated in 30 days, and then you put in an additional caveat into the condition or in recommendation. I believe it's
4E?
4. I think it's 4.
Right, we would be.
Yeah, order on
Right.
4, thank you, where it says if significant progress is being made, that the code enforcement officer has the ability to extend at their discretion the time frame. In other words, if cleanup is happening and is happening at an appropriate pace, then it's up to the code enforcement officer to allow it to move forward. And if they are dissatisfied with the progress that is being made, then they can immediately move into the actual abatement after 30 days.
It wouldn't have to come back here, though?
Would not have to come
Okay.
back here.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, if the commission is going to move forward to order the abatement, then the order would be in place, and as George mentioned, with the additional proposed revision, it would allow the code enforcement to allow additional time before beginning the actual nuisance abatement process, but would not require us to come back here for another hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Marie, it looks like through this process, there's been a lot of attempts to work this out already.
Correct.
We've heard there's been some circumstances beyond control that have maybe prevented that from happening. Do you see possibility of success in the next 90 days, if that much time were allowed?
I do not, just from my experience in working with this for 2 years. I mean, if I would have seen even a little bit of progress over that time, I would probably be confident to say that, but I'm not confident to say that at this time.
So you haven't seen the progress to which she's referring?
I have not.
Okay.
And I guess my next question would be, do you see any irreparable harm to the neighboring, the community or what have you, if a little more time was offered to make this happen?
I mean, I don't see any issues with offering more time, because obviously, based on the amount of debris, it probably will not be abated within 30 days. But I think as long as there's progress being made, I think the neighbors and the community would be very happy to see progress. Just in regards to that, there is a Montessori school with young children next door, immediately next door. And then between the Montessori school, Ms. Houston does have another property in Citrus Heights. So I know one of the concerns was her moving debris between the properties was an issue. And I know Citrus Heights does have a case with her in their jurisdiction, because she's right at the Sacramento County, Placer County line. So.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from the commission?
No.
Huh? Oh, you have to be sworn in?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I'm just a representative of county staff. I'm Tim Wegner. I'm the chief building official here for the county. I also oversee the code enforcement unit. I'm not here to testify, although I do want to give you some perspective from the county's behalf in that this has been a reoccurring instance for more than 10 years with Placer County at this site. This is the third time the Planning Commission has heard abatement hearings for this matter. This is a reoccurring theme. My team has, as you've understood here today, not only attempted to compel the property owner through voluntary compliance efforts, which is noticing and discussions on the property, but also through involuntary compliance efforts, meaning citations that have been issued. And in each of those instances, the hearing officer has found her to be responsible for the actions before her. And so today I'm a bit concerned if we're going to want to extend this much more beyond a 30-day period of time, because, as I can tell you, in 10 years, 30 days or longer is not granting or netting us any gain. There is a school that's associated with this. There are young children. This is on a main thoroughfare in the county. This is a blighted property that's bringing negative vision upon our county and our neighboring property. So I do ask your commission today to consider the recommendations placed before you by the code enforcement officer, because it's appropriate based upon the circumstances before you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the property owner like to rebut that?
Well, there has been issues off and on over the years. However, they came out and signed it off in the middle of all that time. So it had gotten cleaned up. But my son also had been there, and he had issues and no job, and he was collecting a lot of stuff, which cost me a lot to get rid of. And he's not allowed to bring anything there anymore, or he goes. But, I mean, in the middle of your life going on, things happen, and you have to survive in the middle of all this. I mean, you know, while we're busy trying to clean up, other things are happening. I was working until I got in the car accident. I had a truck until I got hit head on. I could do stuff until these things happened. It's like, you know, Murphy's Law has been following me around for a while. And it's not intentional that all that stuff's there. I mean, I don't want my place to look like that. And the pictures that are taken don't look like it looks today. I mean, I have a picture I took recently of the front yard where the tarps were and everything, and you can see it. It doesn't look like that now.
Okay, go ahead and show it.
We've been working on it very hard. Is it still on?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Because this is the front yard where the white tarp and the creek is. that goes
Okay,
through there.
we'll need to have you speak in the microphone now that you
Yeah.
showed us a picture.
Could staff see the picture as well, please?
Yeah,
This is the front yard where the white tarp and all that garbage was.
This is what she was comparing it to, I think.
Code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
We are working on it, and it is getting cleaned up.
okay, I do have another question for you, though.
The only thing I want in that front yard is my garden.
Yeah, yeah, I can appreciate that. One of the things that we're looking at today is an order that gives you basically 30 days to clean up the property.
I don't know if we'll get
Well,
it.
just let me finish. You have 30 days to make some substantial progress on the property. And you've asked for more time, which really, that's up to the hearing body here to determine that amount of time. But the point I'd like to make is if we take action on this, you'll have 30 days to show substantial progress, which will be subject to the county's review and agreement. Otherwise, the extra time doesn't happen. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Have we heard enough yet, hearing body?
Yes, I've also been trying, I'm supposed to go in for eye surgery and knee surgery, but I've been putting it off until this is done.
Okay.
So.
Well, we're working on that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we start and do this one request at a time,
Okay.
starting with the first two bullets.
Okay,
Take them.
so I'm looking for a motion from the hearing body.
I'll move. Is mine on? Am I on?
Hit the middle of the screen, Is it on? No, hit
No.
it again. Hit it again, it'll be on.
There we go.
Speaking to it.
We're going to do one bullet at a time.
Yes, please.
That way I understand it. All right, I move that we find this matter is categorically exempt under the provision of the California Environmental Quality Control Act per County Code, Chapter 18, Article 18.36, Section 18.36.230, Class 21 exemption enforcement actions by regulatory agencies.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes?
Mr. Nader and Mr. Sevison are absent. Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
What it means is there's a state requirement that there be a environmental analysis for a lot of projects. And what this says is this project is, this issue is exempt from that requirement.
Okay, I also move, determined that based on the evidence and testimony presented, that a nuisance exists on the subject property in violation of Placer County zoning code.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes?
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's what I ask. Before you take the next motion, this would be the time to decide whether or not you wish to consider the additional sentence that Mr. Rosaska read into the record. which would allow the code enforcement officer the latitude to decide if there was substantial progress being made to delay the start of the county's abatement of the nuisance. Your other option is to leave it as is, which is a 30-day period after which the county is authorized to begin nuisance abatement.
Can I ask a question? If after 30 days, if we do approve it with the 30 days and the code enforcement officer goes out and finds that, say, 3/4 of the stuff has been removed and they're working on it, what happens? This county won't go in at that time, will they?
If the county has found that the nuisance has been abated, and that would be pursuant to the provisions that you find here about the in excess of 500 square feet of outdoor storage.
Okay.
An inspection typically happens before that 30-day period ends. There's an order, and part of the order is to request the property owner to contact code enforcement, but obviously code enforcement would also go out before the county would begin the process of nuisance abatement to inspect the property to see if the nuisance has been abated. In other words, she complies with the code of no more than an excess of 500 square feet of outside storage. If that is the case, we would not proceed with the nuisance abatement.
Okay, thank you.
If you do go out after 30 days and there hasn't been enough progress, how soon after that does the abatement take place? There's still going to be additional time. It's not going to happen the next day.
That I don't know, and I'm going to turn to either Marina or Ted Rell, who could probably provide you with an idea.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Ted Rell. I'm the Supervising Officer for Code Compliance Services. And to answer that question, it would typically be between after the 30 days or if additional time was requested. At the point that we do determine that abatement is required, it would be anywhere between 60 and 90 to 120 days. It would be overnight to arrange for a contractor to come in and get, we would also have to, I believe, get an abatement warrant or a warrant to enter the property. And so with all those things needed to happen, it would be, I would guess, between 30 and 120 days. It's hard to guess because we haven't done one of these abatements in quite some time. So it's kind of a new process for us again.
So it seems like, based on that, we're automatically giving an extension, because during that period of time, if she does clean it up, you're certainly not going to.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I guess that would be for the county to come in and clean up the property is what you're talking about.
Yes, it would be a contractor hired by the county.
Okay, and so I guess kind of what I'm wondering is, so you have 30 days, and it looks like progress has been made. Does the commission look at a time frame beyond the 30 days if there's progress, or is that just kind of automatic?
I would have to defer that question to council.
I think we need to decide if we want to give them the discretion to determine substantial progress and then extend, or if we're going to make the motion as recommended, which is 30 days, period.
Yeah, my recommendation at this point would be that you change the motion that if significant progress is made, that the code enforcement officer has the discretion to allow them to keep making progress. That way, you have sort of the best of both worlds. You have the ability at 30 days to start the abatement, or if Ms. Houston is making progress, the officer can be like, okay, you're making good progress. We'll continue to move down this path. I would not recommend that you extend the abatement the beyond the 30 days. I would only recommend that you leave the 30 days there with the discretion by the officer to give more time if it's appropriate, in their opinion.
And one question I'm kind of having is, we did hear this has been going on for 10 years, and there's been several administrative hearings.
Mm-hmm.
And so we give discretion to go beyond 30 days.
Only if significant process is being made at this point. And at 30 days, if significant progress has not been made, then the officer has the discretion to immediately move to the abatement process, getting a contractor and starting to clean it up.
Well, how is significant progress viewed? I mean, what does that mean?
Marina, could you answer that?
I mean, what we could do is, give her, let's clear the driveway. She'd have to let us inspect the property and kind of get a visual. We could document the progress with pictures, from our last inspection to kind of see what's going, kind of making sure that things are not being moved around. But I mean, it would have to be a cooperation with the property owner as well as us to kind of, so there has to be a cooperation with Ms. Houston to demonstrate, that she's making the progress, letting us inspect because she has, in the past not allowed us to inspect the full property. So it'll take, doing inspections, photos, but, from my experience of just seeing it on my own, I would be able to make that determination. So.
Okay, so it still would be above the 500 square feet, but your judgment would be that it's substantial. And I guess the change here is that you have access to the property to review it?
Correct.
Okay, that's a significant change.
So is that language we need to add?
I would add it just to be safe, that they also give access to code enforcement, unless county council does.
Actually, that's already in the order. The only, if you're looking at providing the caveat of discretion of the code enforcement officer to grant more time, but still keeping the nuisance abatement within that 30-day period, George can read the sentence into this next motion for you if that is the direction that the Planning Commission wants to go.
I don't know how the rest of you feel. That's kind of where I'm leaning, is that we stay with the 30 days and give her the discretion to inspect and decide.
And I like where Richard was heading with that I would encourage him to get together today and decide what substantial progress is.
Exactly.
So that there's not this discussion taking place on day 29.
Exactly.
And
And that'd
Mr.
be
Chairman,
clear
I'd like to add as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That this is a recurring theme in my experience and with this particular property. And during one particular administrative hearing, we are going through the same motions of a request for an extension of time. I believe it was 90 days during the administrative hearing. Back in April of 2017, March of 2017, a year ago, or 2016, I'm sorry, 1 year ago, the administrative officer gave 90 days to clean up the property, and it was a failed effort.
The difference this time is that we're giving you discretion to act, correct? So.
Correct.
Okay.
And access, you say, where's it in the order that that the county has access to the property to verify this?
I'm sorry, what?
I think you said that it's already in the order that the county code enforcement person would be able to go on the property to view?
Yes, although bear in mind that we can put that in the order, but if it comes down to it and the property owner does refuse, we will have to go to court and get an inspection warrant and or an abatement order. So while we've written it in, we can't guarantee that particular cooperation.
If they don't have the cooperation.
Right. But we do have it in the order that the code enforcement officer has the authority to conduct inspections.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me see. Just to be sure, I will ask the property owner, do you understand what's being talked about here? We haven't made a decision yet, but you understand what's being talked about.
Pretty much, yeah. I just would like to point out that last year in March, my sister passed away. And then in April, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And that was my 90 days I spent at the hospital because he was more important.
Yeah, I hear all this. I guess we're kind of down to the final straw here.
Well, it's being cleaned
And so
out.
at any rate, I just want to be clear. I think what I'm here is talking about, and we haven't made a decision yet, but we're saying, okay, 30 days. And during that 30-day period, with your assistance, you need to make substantial progress
Yeah.
towards cleaning up the property.
Well,
And
since
then,
the pictures.
let me finish.
Okay.
And the code enforcement officer will come out, and she does have the ability to review your property, but to walk on your property, you're going to have to,
I don't have a problem with her.
okay. So she'll come out and review your property. If she sees substantial results, then she'll have the discretion to extend some time, but it would be limited time. You know, it's not unlimited time, because we're down to the final
Right.
story here, you know,
Well,
and so it has to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
And that's really what's being talked about
Well,
here.
since she took her pictures in February, there's substantial cleanup
Okay,
that's happened.
and she'll make that judgment within, you know, provided what we do today, within a 30-day period.
Yeah, well, she has my
Then-
phone number.
Then what
wants
she
to-
sees will determine where we go from there. But you don't have an unlimited amount of time, and that's going to be an important thing to understand.
Yeah, well, time's the only thing that there's never enough of, but it is unlimited, but we personally never have enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. Let me see, the next item, is there a motion?
We need a clarification.
Oh, you need a clarification?
I think I would add, if you're inclined to allow the officer the discretion to extend or hold off doing abatement, I would put, the code enforcement officer may, at their sole discretion, allow Ms. Houston more time to clean up the property if substantial progress is being made with regard to the cleanup of said property.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Any further discussion, I guess, or go ahead and make a motion, and we'll see if there's further discussion.
Okay, I'll move. I'm assuming you're going to want to add that after the 30 days?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I move to order Ms. Houston to abate the nuisance by removing outside storage in excess of 500 square feet, removing inoperable vehicles that are not registered to the property owner or to the residents at the property, and to remove all outside storage located within the front setback area within 30 days, or as agreed upon by the commission and the property owner, and as inspected by the, help me out.
I recommend that you amend your motion to say after the within 30 days, as amended.
The CE officer may, at their sole discretion, allow Ms. Houston more time to clean up the property if substantial progress is being made with regard to cleanup of the property. Did that sound
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And that would replace that last provision in this part of the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, then as amended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one more bullet point here that we need to look at, and I'm open to a motion on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I move in the event abatement is not commenced, conducted, and completed in accordance with the terms set by the commission above, authorized and empower the code compliance officer with the jurisdiction to abate the nuisance by removing and disposing of the materials and preparation and maintenance of an itemized account of all cost of abatement and issuance of notice of assessment in compliance with zoning code section 17.56.160E.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is that?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I would now ask you to refer to your staff report on page 6, under recommendations. Number 3, staff requests the issuance of the abatement order. Your motion can say, as set forth in the staff report, as amended during this hearing, and supported by the findings set forth in the staff report.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Then I would refer to you to page 7, number 5. That being the request to authorize the chair of the planning commission to sign the abatement order as amended during this hearing.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair of the planning commission to sign the abatement order as amended here in this hearing.
Second.
Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see, I'll ask our council, I guess ultimately this goes to the supervisors anyway, so is there an appeal period, or are we not?
There is an appeal period.
There's an appeal period?
Yes.
Okay, so the property owner does have 10 calendar days to appeal this decision to the Board of Supervisors, and I presume the appeal fee is the same as $564.
Okay.
So at any rate, good luck on this. We'll hope that this is the final hour for the problem that you're dealing with. So thank you for being here. Okay, we'll close out that item and get ready to move on to our next item.
If the clerk could read in the item.
What's that?
We'll read in the item of the matter and then swear.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me get my papers organized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are dealing with another order of abatement, and it's the County of Placer versus Galen E. Whitaker and Edward Allen Whitaker. And this is property that's in the vicinity of Roseville, but it's on county property. And so, at any rate, we'll take a staff report on this.
Do we have to swear people in?
She needs to read in.
Oh, yeah, is there any, who wants to testify on this property? Is there anybody in the audience that's going to make a testimony? Not seeing anybody stand up.
You'd want Marina to be also sworn in for this one?
Okay.
So the matter is the nuisance abatement for Galen E. Whitaker and Edward A. Whitaker at 8511 Robbie Way in Roseville. Anyone giving testimony today on this matter must do so under oath. If you intend to give testimony on this matter, please stand now and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please state, I do.
I do.
Now.
I do.
You may be seated.
Okay, would you like to start us off here? And I try to pronounce your last name, but I have to practice more.
Okay. Hello again. So this nuisance abatement case before you is in regards to 8511 Roby Way, and the vacant parcel. It's not addressed or anything, but it's also owned by the property owners Galen and Edward Whitaker. Let's see here, 8511 is just under half an acre in size. The parcel to the south is smaller at about 0.29 acres. Both are zoned residential, single-family, combining agriculture, located in the unincorporated portion of Roseville and Placer County. This case began with a complaint in February of 2015 for the excess storage and debris at the property. Over the course of 2 years from my initial inspection on April 9th of 2015, the division has issued several notice of violations letters to Mr. Whitaker and have had 2 administrative citations with 2 administrative hearings that have been held. Mr. Whitaker was given, with those hearings, a total of 60 days to make any progress, and then he was issued a notice of nuisance on October 14th of 2016. Mr. Whitaker did not show up at either one of the hearings that we held. He has been aggressive, hostile, defiant, and he has threatened county staff, including myself. He's refused to cooperate and communicate in a productive manner with our department to try to resolve this. His property has become a serious hazard to the neighborhood in which 2 young children live in proximity to. It's been almost 2 years. Based on the photos that I've provided to you, the condition of the property has not improved. The division has given Mr. Whitaker 2 years to bring the property into compliance. And based on my last inspection on February 22nd of 2017, the property remains in violation. The violations are unlawful land use. Mr. Whitaker is allowed to have 300 square feet of outdoor storage at the property for both the properties, accessory storage of inoperable vehicles, other materials, and items stored within the front setback as well. And like I said, communication from the property owner has not been productive. My first and only conversation with him was March 6th of 2015, and it was not helpful. He, on June 29th, left me a threatening message after I had inspected his property. I've never made contact with him in person. And other than my first contact with him on March 6th, I've never had an in-person contact with him since then. He's only left messages on my voicemail. On August 16th of last year, a letter was hand-delivered, which was in the staff report to the public counter. It wasn't signed by Galen or Edward Whitaker, but obviously it's in relation to the property. And then his brother, Galen, lives at the property, and his brother lives at a different property in Loomis, but they both own the property together. So on August 30th of last year, Mr. Edward Whitaker came in and spoke to my supervisor and I, and trying to come up with some kind of solution with this. I wouldn't say it was completely unproductive, but he was with the thought that this is pretty much his brother's problem and property. So again, just recently, September, and then on February 24th, Mr. Whitaker again left me a threatening message on my voicemail in regards to our notices that we've sent. So try to contact and resolve this, but it's been incredibly difficult trying to get anything done. This was from my first inspection on April 9th of 2015. And this is right on Roby Way, so you could see that it's clearly visible by anyone who lives on that street and drives up and down the street in the neighborhood. There also is a church across the street, directly across the street. Most of it is screened from the trees that are in the front, but if you drive down into the driveway and you're coming out of the driveway, you could see his property. So this is June 5th of 2 years ago, 2015. This is in the front yard, again on the Roby Way, kind of poked through the bushes, the trees there. This is the neighboring parcel that's adjacent to 8511, also owned by Mr. Galen and Edward Whitaker. It's a vacant parcel. There's no house or anything, but there are items stored there, as you can see. June 28th of last year. November 15th of 2016, the neighboring parcel. There's really no way to get to the front door of the property, so I've never been able to, go and try to make contact with Mr. Whitaker. And after initially, I don't know if I would want to at that point, but. And this was February 22nd. This is from the vacant parcel. You can see there's a gate, the fence separates them, but there's a gate there between both parcels. That's it. So at this time, Code is asking the Planning Commission to determine that a nuisance exists at the property, and that Mr. Whitaker has been given more than enough time to bring the property into compliance. We asked the Planning Commission to order Mr. Whitaker to abate his nuisance by removing the items in excess of 300 square feet on both properties, including the inoperable vehicles and vehicles that don't belong to him. The items moved out of the front setback within 30 days. We ask that in the event Mr. Whitaker does not complete the abatement of the property after the allotted time, to authorize and empower code compliance to abate the nuisance. And that
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Marina, did Mr. either once say they were going to be here today?
the only message I got was, what was it, February 24th, and he did not say that.
Message. Okay.
Yeah,
Do you know if the road that's that part of Roby Way that's in Placer County, because parts of it is in Sacramento from Twin Oaks, is it a private road?
It is a private. It's not a county maintained road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment before we get started on the discussion that I am an acquaintance of Galen Whitaker. I probably haven't seen him for 20 years. Matter of fact, I didn't even know what his last name was until I saw this, but I wanted to make sure that we put that on the table so it didn't become an issue.
Okay. And council has indicated that you can participate.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay. Still nobody that is going to address this issue from the audience? Okay, Commission, I guess it's up to us at this point.
Karen wants to say something.
If we could simply note for the record that the property owner was not in attendance at this hearing.
Okay, yeah, the property owner was not in attendance at this hearing. Okay, I'll take a motion if there's no discussion.
Mr. Chairman, in absence of discussion, I would make a motion that we find this matter is categorically exempt under the provision of the California Environmental Quality Control Act per County Code Chapter 18, Article 18.36, Section 18.36.2.30, Class 21 exemption enforcement actions by regulatory agencies.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would further move that we determine that based on the evidence and testimony presented, that a nuisance exists on the subject property in violation of Placer County zoning code.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
I would further move that order Galen and Edward Whitaker to abate the nuisance by removing outside storage in excess of 300 square feet on each parcel, removing inoperable vehicles that are not registered to the property owner or to the resident at the property, and to remove all outside storage located within the front setback area within 30 days, or is it within 30 days?
You're right. You would end it at the 30 days.
Okay. Is there any
Second.
discussion at all on this?
Second.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes.
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
we ended it with the period after 30 days. Okay. Let me see, fourth item.
I would further move that in the event abatement is not commenced, conducted, and completed in accordance with the terms set by the commission above, that we authorize and empower a code compliance officer with the jurisdiction to abate the nuisance by removing and disposing of the materials and preparation and maintenance of an itemized account of all costs of abatement and issuance of a notice of assessment in compliance with zoning code section 17.56.160E.
Second?
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes?
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank
Miss-
you.
Mr. Chairman, I would now refer you to the staff report, page 6, number 3. The recommendation is to issue the abatement order consistent with the terms set forth in the staff report and supported by the findings in the staff report.
So move.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Arcuri?
Yes?
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
And finally, on page 7 of your staff report, the request is to authorize the chair of the planning commission to sign the abatement order.
I move that we authorize the chair of the planning commission to sign the abatement order.
Second?
Roll call?
Yes?
Sorry about that. I heard you. Mr. Arcuri?
Yes?
Mr. Rokucci?
Yes.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess that's the end of this motion. In this case, without the person being in attendance, is there an appeal?
No, there is not. There's nobody in attendance.
Before we, are you ready to adjourn?
In a minute. I just wanted to clarify that in this case, since the property owner didn't show up at the hearing, that there's no appeal
Okay.
opportunity.
I just have a question. It's not on this issue, just planning commission stuff. Do we have any idea when the when Supervisor Montgomery is going to appoint her representative to be on this commission? Because we are going to be short, and I might have some conflicts coming up in the near future on issues, and I'll explain that briefly.
I do not. However, I do see Supervisor Montgomery on a fairly regular basis, so I will find that out for you.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is that, we have 4 today, and I'm not sure if we're going to have 4 next week or next meeting, but staff already knows my conflict is that there's a little part of the ethics law in California state law that since I ran for the city council in November, I accepted more than $250 from several people. We have a $500 limit in Roseville, which obviously I didn't extend. But if you did accept more than $250, and I gave the staff a report, I think there's 20 names or so on there, that I have to recluse myself if that person or their representatives in front of us on an agenda item. And the only ones I'm really worried about or concerned about are the ones in the Granite Bay area, because Mr. Marcus LaDuca, attorney, did give me almost $500. Thank him for that. But if he's up here representing for probably another 9 months, I probably won't be able to be here on those. I have to recluse. I have to go out. So we need that extra person. Plus, we have 2 people gone. So that's the reason I'm bringing it up, because I don't want to have here all of a sudden we have that agenda item and I've got to leave the room. Just want to make that clear. That's what my conflict is. And it's interesting, and here's my little, get on my soapbox now. It doesn't apply to an elected official. The $250 where you have to recluse yourself for 12 months after you receive the donation. Only if you get appointed, if you're an appointed official, which I am on this committee here. So and I had seen that before, but since we had to go every 2 years through our ethics training for 2 hours online, that came to my attention. I kind of forgot about that a little bit. So when I realized that, I brought it to the attention of staff. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'll be sure to follow up with Supervisor Montgomery to see if she has any plans in the very near future. No problem.
Well, thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Okay, anything else for the good of the commission?
We have somebody.
I do have a comment, a question, comment.
You have a what now?
I have a question and a comment to make.
Okay, this will be like a public, you realize we've acted on all the items today, so if it's on one of those items, then...
Well, I have a question is...
Mr. Chair, you did ask for public comment at the beginning. If the commission wishes to reopen and hear additional public comment, you can certainly do that, but I'd encourage you then to make a motion to reopen the public comment period in order to let the individual speak.
Okay, I would like to ask you, does anything that you want to talk about, was that on the agenda today?
The matter you just heard, yes. I have a
okay.
comment on the matter you just heard.
Well, I'm sorry. we've already
This is
taken action on
This is
that.
actually a very important component to this.
Huh?
This is a very, a matter of importance to this, opponent to this matter you just decided on.
Well, you had an opportunity.
I know, but this, now that you've rendered your decision, this does come into play now. There's a matter
Mr. Chair, we simply can't, if this is about one of the nuisance abatement hearings, that is closed.
Yeah.
If it's about the use of the basement, we don't even have the property owner in the room. If this is general comment, again, the commission can make a motion to reopen public comment.
It'd be a general comment about not what we've discussed today. Is
Not
that
what we
correct?
discussed today. We've concluded those hearings.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. It sounds like,
This is a matter of public safety. I just wonder how you're going to protect residents in that, on that street when this all
well,
happens.
I'm sorry, sir. We have the sheriff back here. You can talk to the sheriff officer, and he's the one that deals with the public safety issues. So I would suggest that you talk to him.
Okay, I'll address my concern with that.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to close the hearing. Thank you, guys.